Guys, it is time to lock in and get active. There is a new Splatoon 3 patch 9.2, that is going to be coming out today, I believe, on November 20th. And there's a bunch of new things that we have to check out, a lot of interesting things. And this is kind of like a first time reaction of me actually being awake, seeing this patch, because last night I was a bit just, I didn't know what was going on. I was just like, there's a new patch, what? And I went to sleep. Either way, let's get into it. Latest update version 9.2 releasing November 20th. I believe that will probably be the 21st if you live in Europe and Japan and Australia and all that type of stuff. 1 a.m. for myself and 2 a.m. for the other Europeans out there. America, you can go figure it out. But anyways, changes to the amiibos. They've allowed it so that you can now go from the Grand Festival when you're not on the internet. So that's kind of nice with Kylie, Marie, Pearl, Marina, Shiva, Fry, Big Man. Basically, majority of the amiibos. Very, very cool. Not the Squid amiibo though, apparently. But either way, the most interesting things that why we even here are to talk about the weapons. And the first weapon that we have is the Splattershot, which was probably the only thing I read so far. They've increased the speed of shots approximately by 3% and extended the flight distance. So we've seen this with Squeezer before, but this time it's a buff. They're buffing the Splattershot. Not only that the bullet of a Splattershot is going to fly a lot, like, you know, a lot 3% quicker, of course. I mean, it's not up by much, but it is what it is. But it's also getting extended range by 3%, which honestly is very, very huge. I think, at least from how I see this and from my perspective, it's gonna make the Splattershot just a much more consistent weapon, let's just say. I'm thinking about it from like in terms of like how it was in Splatoon 1 especially, Splatoon 2 of course. But I've noticed specifically in Splatoon 3, sometimes when you're fighting with Splattershot, you have to like, I feel like you'd have to lead your shots more often than you'd think you'd have to. So I feel like this specific buff is actually fixing that, and around the board just make it very, very consistent and very reliable. So honestly, this might be a very small buff for the Splattershot, but honestly, it does kind of a lot for the Splattershot just to make it so that you can win more fights consistently, which is, you know, we do love some consistency. I love having consistency, even though I play a lot of weapons that don't have a lot of consistency, 96 cal. But yeah, either way, we're gonna go on to the next weapon, the Splattershot Pro. They've reduced the scatter of shots while on the ground by approximately 7%. That kind of makes it seem like the Splattershot Pro is actually getting an accuracy buff. That by like at least 7%. Like, it's just going to be a much more consistent weapon, much more aim variant weapon, which is, I guess that's one thing. I mean, the Splattershot Pro was not super accurate. I can understand this buff, which is nice. I mean, maybe a couple of other things that could be changed with Splattershot, maybe a little bit of the movement speed, just like 1%, because it's just like sometimes it's a little bit sluggish. But the thing is, I'm not going to complain for it being a more accurate weapon. I mean, that's always a welcomed thing for the Splattershot Pro, so very nice to see. For the Lunar Blaster, they've increased the radius of damaging explosion area by approximately 6%. So pretty much the Lunar Blaster has a much larger damaging radius for its partials, which is, I mean, quite nice for a Lunar Blaster. Kind of something that I feel like it might need. Maybe more people actually start picking it up just because of that, but you know, I mean, that's gonna make Lunar Blaster just, again, a whole lot more consistent. That's always very welcome. For the L3 Nozzlenose, they've reduced the amount of ink consumed by approximately 4%, so that's just going to make the L3 Nozzlenose a lot more efficient, which is always welcome. You're going to be able to shoot a little bit longer, maybe I think like 1 or 2 shots from that, from maybe just one. Yeah, it's not too much, but it's something, I guess. Same thing for the H3 Nozzlenose, except they reduced the amount of ink consumed by approximately 8%. Honestly, that's actually a pretty nice buff for the H3, but it doesn't fix the H3 at all, because I think the main weapon just needs to be quicker. I'm always just going to be saying this. I think the main weapon burst between shots just need to be like maybe 1 or 2 frames quicker, just because it just feels like the H3 is not fast enough. I think that's the only thing that really bothers me. The H3 is like could be slightly faster. Ink consumption is very welcome, because I believe in Splatoon 2, they actually nerfed the ink consumption, because beforehand, I think you had about 20 shots, and then they reduced it to 15, and it's still around 15 shots without any ink saver main in this game right now. So that's always very welcome, just makes it a little bit easier to actually like just shoot a whole lot more with the H3, which is nice. But I still think this weapon just needs to be able to just be slightly quicker so it can actually play with the big bubbler that it has and be able to actually challenge more things that are super insanely quick and consistent. So yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a nice buff, but I still think the H3 is just going to struggle as a main weapon in general. So for the Goo Tuber, they've reduced the time required to charge fully by approximately 1/15 of a second. With this change, the time until it will deal 100 or more damage is also reduced approximately to a 20th of a second. I wish they just said the frames because it's so, like, I have to now calculate how much of is 1/15 of a second. So 1/15 of a second is about 4 frames if I'm not mistaken, so it charges 4 frames quicker, which is quite nice. And 20th of a second is about 3 frames, so it's going to be able to deal 100 damage on I guess 3 frames faster, which is always welcome. So I don't know if, I mean, maybe you might notice that, but I'm not too sure. I mean, it's quite nice for a Goo Tuber though, so can't complain there. For the Douser Dualies, they've reduced the amount of time between the end of a dodge roll and being able to take another action by approximately 3 frames again of a second. So 3 frames faster when you do a dodge roll and you're coming out of it, you're basically gonna be 3 frames faster. That's actually quite huge for the Dousers, and honestly, very welcome. I personally really vibe with the Douser Dualies, if you've ever heard me say that, but I really do like this weapon. So it just being slightly quicker, very nice. And you know, I mean, I didn't even feel like it really needed it, but I'll take it. You know, if you play the Douser Dualies at any point or you do enjoy that weapon, you're gonna like this buff. So actually, I think this is probably the first thing I'm gonna try. Probably gonna try Douser Dualies, and obviously they're gonna have to try the Splattershot. So for the Undercover Brella, they've reduced the time required for broken canopies to recover from 4.4 seconds to approximately 3.7 seconds, so 0.3 seconds quicker for it to actually recover its canopy, which is, you know, always super welcome. Very nice. For the Splatana Wiper, they've reduced the charge time required to do a charge swipe by approximately 1/30th of a second, which I can probably guess that's 2 frames. So charge swipe is going to be 2 frames faster. I think that's going to be a super noticeable for anyone that uses a lot of Splatana Wiper. You're just going to be a lot more, you're going to feel like you're going to be just a lot more nimble with that charge swipe. So that's super cool actually. So really like that change. Yeah, that's actually everything when it comes to all the main weapons. We got a couple of things with the sub weapons, actually quite a lot of things with the sub weapons, so let's check this out too. For the Autobomb, they've increased the radius of enemy detection by approximately 8%. So for this one, the Autobomb is going to be super helpful. I think recon is always welcome. If it's 8%, I mean 8% is quite big for extra enemy detection. So that's, I mean, basically every single Autobomb you throw, if you're throwing a bunch of them, it's just gonna be able to locate wherever players are. So that's very nice. Instead of needing to have like something like a point sensor or you know, you have an Autobomb, it's kind of the same thing, except you have to kind of use your eyes where that chicken is actually running towards an opponent or anything like that. So that's very good. Autobombs are great for weeding people out, and yeah, no, I think this is a really good buff for it. Angle Shooter, the initial velocity is approximately 5% faster and the flight distance has also been extended. I honestly do not understand this one because I've always thought Angle Shooter was already like very much hit scan, but if it wasn't hit scan enough, then it pretty much is hit scan now because the thing flies so fast anyway. So, I mean, cool, I guess. Flight distance has also been extended. I mean, that's always very much welcome too. Yeah, I honestly don't know what to think about this one, but we're just gonna have to see it when it comes out. For the Fizzy Bomb, they've adjusted the way that they bounce due to explosions and slightly reduced the distance moved with 1 explosion. With this change, the area that can be inked with 2 or more explosions will be reduced, and the area that can be inked with dropped ink spray when not charged to full power will now be expanded. So with this, they basically reduce the Fizzy Bomb's distance when it bounces, so it doesn't go as far, and they've reduced the amount of ink that it also produces as it goes down. So this is basically a Fizzy Bomb nerf, if I'm not mistaken from how I'm reading it. So you know, generally depending on how this looks, like we don't know exactly how much ink is being reduced. We don't exactly know how far it goes, but I mean, obviously I think Fizzy Bomb will still be very useful and thrown, especially if it's thrown in the right places with its new changes. But you know, Fizzy Bomb is basically just not going to ink as much and go as far. So, but it's still going to be good. I think it's still going to be a solid sub weapon despite that. For the Torpedo, they've lengthened the time required to transform by approximately a 1/12 of a second, which is about 5 frames if I'm not mistaken. This change will also give enemies more time to shoot down a torpedo. They've also increased the initial velocity when thrown by approximately 3% and made it possible to throw them farther than before. So basically with this, torpedoes are going to fly faster. You can actually throw them much further, which is always a nice change, but they've also nerfed it so that it takes 5 more frames for it to actually deploy and actually like boom. So it's a buff and a nerf. It makes torpedoes quicker but slower at the same time. So interesting. So that is all for sub weapons. There has only been one change for one special weapon in this game, which is the Booyah Bomb. From what they've done, they've slightly increased the amount of power charged by their player and their allies' Booyahs, making it possible to throw the Booyah Bomb faster than before when players send Booyahs. They've also increased the radius of explosion area by approximately 5%, and they've also increased the damage dealt to Big Bubbler by also approximately 33%. So it's just a whole buff for Booyah Bomb. It's like if you're using a Booyah Bomb weapon, you have a little bit of special power up on you already without having the special power up. So, you know, you get to charge the Booyah Bomb much quicker. The explosion radius, I mean, 5% larger. I mean, always welcomed. I mean, that's very, very nice. And specifically to Big Bubblers is kind of getting it this one with it being able to actually destroy Big Bubblers much better than before. So, I don't know, maybe they just don't want Big Bubbler to be too strong, but I mean, I get it too. I feel like weapons that do have Booyah Bomb are going to pretty much counter Big Bubbler weapons a whole lot more. And if we go into the special point changes, they've changed the Zinc Mini Splatling, which is a Big Bubbler weapon, and the Mint Decavitator, which is also a Big Bubbler weapon too. So they're making it harder for these specific weapons to actually get Big Bubbler. Mint Decavitator has actually been one of those weapons that's been really taking over by storm. By first of all, just being a really good main weapon, not like super overpoweringly annoying. At least in my eyes, I think the Mint Decavitator as a weapon is definitely fine. I can understand why they've made it so that it takes more time to actually get the special now, but Zinc Mini I don't really understand, but I mean, I guess maybe Big Bubblers has been something that's been really annoying a lot of people, and they want something for, you know, some way to counter it, so other weapons to be able to actually deal with these weapons too. So yeah, no, that's decent, that's all good. In terms of other stuff, they basically explain what they've done and why they've done it here. But like, I mean, if you guys are free, feel free to read that. This whole thing is in the description below. But what do I think personally about this patch? I think it's a decent patch. I think if you play Splattershot or Splattershot Pro, your lives may be a little bit easier, especially for the Splattershot. I think that honestly, Splattershot's probably the biggest change in this patch. While it being small, I think it does quite a lot for that weapon. Douser Dualies is really, really interesting, and I'm super interested to see how that works. Splatana Wiper is also really interesting, and all the sub weapons are also really interesting. I think Autobomb's weapons are going to be interesting too. Torpedo, there's not many torpedo weapons that really give me so much interest, but again, I think it's a really nice change too. So yeah, there's just a lot. There's quite a lot of stuff to really unpack here. I don't really think how the game is played is really going to change. I mean, if you ask me what I would really want to be changed with this game in terms of stuff that we have, I would like it that Tacticooler was slightly reduced in terms of when you grab the drink, the amount of time or effects that you have at that drink. I wish that was reduced, because I feel like sometimes it generally feels like that you are boosted for 15 or 20 seconds or 30 seconds. I know it's not that amount of time, but sometimes it just feels like it's a little bit too long. I feel like if you are going to be boosted by something like a Tacticooler with all those effects, you should be ready to use those effects instantly or at that point once you grab it. Like, I feel like there needs to be a little bit more coordination of, okay, I'm throwing the Tacticooler down, let's all grab it and then go forward with the push with whatever push that we're doing. I just don't feel like it's fair where it's like, okay, I throw the Tacticooler down and I can sit with my ability boosts for a good 5-10 seconds and then make my move. That's not fair in my opinion. So if there was any change for this game, I'd say specifically that, because then it's gonna free up a whole lot more backlines, and I feel like it's also gonna free up like other like weapons and other playstyles to be more played and have like some life too. So yeah, that's basically all I want in terms of like another patch. And of course, buff the H3, please. Like, come on, I'm still waiting for it. So yeah, either way, guys, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you guys have any suggestions or what do you guys think of this patch, leave it in the comments below. I'd really be interested to hear what you guys think as well. And yeah, that's pretty much all from me. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I shall see you guys in a future video.